The hospital visit, the emergency room visit, the unexpected trip. Actually, when it comes to dementia, hospitalizations are pretty much something that happens for almost everyone at some point. Whether you anticipate it or not, there's a high probability. So this is the time where planning ahead, preparing can make a big difference. Packing a bag for yourself and for the person that you're supporting, and making sure within that bag there are things that are going to fill the time. They are going to be things that are familiar, that are comforting, and making sure you have some people who can also be present so that you can take a break. It turns out that being in the hospital is pretty exhausting for everyone involved. It's an unfamiliar place with unfamiliar people doing unfamiliar and often uncomfortable or painful things. And I'm not allowed to do the things I typically have done that give me satisfaction, that fill my day, that make me comfortable. So working on everybody's skill set ahead of time can reduce the risk that something happens and we're trying to deal with it in a crisis state, which is never a good place to be when you're trying to figure things out. What does that mean? Well, it probably means I want to figure out who's good with hospitals, who's good with medical information, who's really good with managing in-home stuff, who could take my place if I need to step away for a little bit, who's great at sharing information with the other team members so they get what they need so they're not bothering me to give them what they want or need because I'm busy doing other things. Looking at your own strengths and the strengths of others and preparing that team for the possibility of spending hours at the emergency room, hours in a hospital room, hours waiting. Waiting is never something people living with dementia are particularly good at. It's not something we're particularly good at. So practicing ahead of time, what could we do? What kind of places are available to us? What kind of people might we pull in? What kind of props could we bring along? And maybe it's simply turning off the TV and closing the door. Maybe it's using music or using something that's available to me, or maybe it's something I have to seek out and prepare ahead of time. Most of all, how are we going to fill those hours, that time, for them and for us? And what else needs to get done? So hospitals, they often are part of life because people living with dementia don't just have dementia. Other things can and will happen to the body, to the brain, to the emotions, and we may need support. And that hospital support may be necessary, but there are also times when we may want to make the decision, is this the right place to be? But for right now, let's just consider what we're going to do if we do end up there and make choices that make sense for everyone involved. And be ready to make a switch if it's not working.